Sisters of Cfmeu, receive my fraternal greetings to this important conference on women. It is good to see that in a workspace characterized by a strong male presence, this conference is now taking place. It's a very good message for millions of women in the world today who are still discriminated against, excluded, subordinated, and overexploited by reason of their gender. For you as women, but also for the Cfmeu, should be an additional source of pride having as the head of the local branch of the union in New South Wales, in the position of president, a woman as available as Sister Rita Amelia, who is appreciated and respected in Colombia for her tenacity, sensitivity, solidarity, and leadership capacity. Unfortunately, discrimination and sexism as the legacy of the patriarchal culture are not the exclusive practice of the ruling classes. Sadly, in labor unions, democratic, and in some of the progressive organizations on the left are also present. That is why it's so important that more women are empowered in positions of representation and management within these workplaces and unions to which they belong, and using a clear gender perspective, encourage the other sisters to be treated with dignity and equality in union and in political activism. For women in the workplace, in the academia, or in the professional life, there are other areas of oppressions. In addition of living in a daily work life, they are also raising the children, often as a female head of household, or taking care of the husband. All of these add to the burden in their workplace. Consequently, we talk about the triple higher workload for working women who are facing very different conditions and are always in imbalance in relation to men. In Colombia, my country, we have developed our union and demand our rights in the midst of an armed conflict that has lasted 50 years. In other words, in middle of the world. That makes our activism be regarded as high risk. Prison, physical disappearances, torture, forced displacement, and death are practices used by the state forces and paramilitaries to silence us. Colombia is, for example, the most dangerous country in the world for trade union work and human rights activities. According to the United Nations, Colombia is the second country with the largest forced displacement. As a result of the political violence that exists in Colombia, our women have been most affected. 70% of people who have been forced to leave their land are women, many of them young girls. Most of these, prior to their banishment, were raped and their spouses murdered. Thus, they had to take over the leadership of their destroyed homes. According to a recent article written by another woman and sister, Laura Ligaretto, my country has now overcome the discrimination against women in the workplace. This is reflected in the fact that 60% of working women have informal jobs with no benefits, low income, no access to social security, and a high level of dependency, even though they are working. Female unemployment exceeds by 11.8% to men. In formal jobs, many companies prefer hiring men than women, although both have the same training and or skills to perform the job. And when women are often recruited, most confront unequal conditions in salary compared to their male counterparts. Women are paid 7% less for doing the same work as men. Moreover, many working women are harassed not only as workers, but also sexually. 70% of our women have reported this type of harassment and violence against them. And although slowly and as the result of the struggles of many women who became before us, more and more women are accessing technical and vocational education, this effort does not translate into more women in management positions. As for the political influence of women within their organizations, the situation is not very different. On the contrary, participation tends to be minimized, downplayed, or even worse, is made invisible. In this context, I wish to explain some aspects of my personal history. My name is Liliany Obando. I'm a sociologist and a human rights activist, but I am also a single mother and a head of my household. Currently, I am also one of the 9,500 political prisoners in my country. I became a political prisoner because one day I decided I could not ignore the suffering of my people subjugated by wars over and over by those who hold power and concentrate wealth. My struggle has been to build a more just and peaceful country, but also to overcome inequity and discrimination against women and achieve equality. It has not been an easy undertaking, but with each blow, I only reaffirm the correctness of my decision. I consciously become a member of a political and social organization, of which I am a survivor. The Patriotic Union is a political movement of which I have been part. The Patriotic Union suffered the worst genocide in my country with over 5,000 of its members killed. At some point in the struggle, I arrived to the conclusion and understanding that all human beings have certain rights that must be demanded and defended. I also realized that I will never allow to be treated as a shadow behind a great man, because as a woman should be equal, recognized and valued as them. Such awareness also comes from my own personal experience. Through much effort, I managed to get a university education, which has not prevented being discriminated against, subordinated, and harassed in my social life and work. Being very young, I had a temporary job where my boss sexually harassed me, but nobody believed me when I reported. Also, at a very young age, I became a single mother with no support from the father of my child. When employers realized I was pregnant, I was dismissed from several jobs. I lived through very tough times, and my son was born in a charity hospital, alone. Just him and I, no company around. When I was pregnant with my daughter, although the conditions had improved a bit, I had complications during my pregnancy, and I had to take some time off work. Working in an informal job as a contractor, the employer used my absence as a pretext to keep my wages, thus depriving me of my livelihood when I needed most. So I have known the meaning of enjoying maternity leave. Many times my work and intellectual effort was used by other people, but without giving due recognition for it. It is what I would call undue usufruct and the invisibility of our work. I am aware that situations like I describe and worse are experienced daily by thousands of women around the world, and so my commitment is to help overcome them. And as has happened with many other activists and trade unions leaders, human rights defenders, and social activists in Colombia, I was imprisoned for my ideas and for demanding rights for our people. I was incarcerated in a women's prison without being convicted for nearly 4 years and separated from my academic, professional life and my daughter and son. Whether we like it or not, prison makes you unproductive because in prison there is not work for people like us. I was tentatively set free when it became obvious the nature of my prolonged and arbitrary detention. During that brief time of freedom, I was threatened, harassed, persecuted, and so my family. Shortly after I was convicted of rebellion, a term used and applied in my country to those who think differently and demand their rights. I was sentenced to 70 months in prison and ordered to pay a fine of nearly $400,000, an exorbitant fine for a woman, single mother, and sole supporter of the household. Recently, I was again briefly in prison without just cause for 15 days in a dungeon that holds a horror story in my country because it's a place where prisoners are tortured. In that place, I was the only woman for several days. I was locked up day and night in solitary confinement and fairly adverse conditions. As a form of protest, I started a hunger strike, due to which I suffered a momentary loss of consciousness and a few bruises, but also as a result of it, together with international solidarity and some organizations defending human rights in my country, I was released and placed instead under house arrest, given my condition of single mother and head of household. I have already spent 6 years in legal and political struggle that keeps me still deprived of my freedom. I want you, comrades, to know that your union has been one of the most active and committed to the international solidarity, and that by bringing my case to the public arena, they have also brought the cases of over 9,500 political prisoners in Colombia. I am immensely grateful and committed to our solidarity with each and every one of you in your struggles for better working conditions in Cfmeu. From here, and in my condition of a women prisoner, I am undeterred in doing my solidarity work in defense of human rights, labor rights of women, prisoners, and especially political prisoners. I want to add that this effort would not be possible if we could not have the strong support and international involvement in political denunciation in demanding the Colombian government respect for human rights and support for the ongoing peace process between the government and insurgents. We require that under this ongoing peace process, a broad amnesty and pardon be instituted for more than 9,500 Colombian political prisoners. Brothers and sisters, in these and other demands, I hope we will continue having the solidarity support from Cfmeu, so you can help us to keep dreaming and struggling to overcome war and have a truly democratic and inclusive country where there is a peace with social justice. It's from my current prison that I send you my greeting and my encouragement to empower yourselves as women to defend the rights you enjoy as workers in your country and to raise awareness of these rights, to bring the consciousness of your affiliates that these rights are the outcome of the struggles and sacrifices made by many other women in the past, in your country and in the world, to get these rights for their peers. It is up to you to protect, advance, and obtain new rights for women, to achieve true equality and end to discrimination for our gender. Or make colleagues in our various areas of political and trade unions activists have also an important role to play in recognizing, internalizing, and making those rights part of their policy and work practice, going beyond the talking word and putting into practice that they tell us in their speeches. Together, we shall defeat the ABCC. Forward, sisters, to defend our strides, whatever it takes.